So, some people have left comments on my video, it's so hard to date after 50. Like, hey lady, if you haven't met anyone in 10 years, you're the problem. Well, it's very different after 50 or 60 than it is in your 20s. If you're in your 20s and haven't met anyone, you definitely have a problem. In your 50s, it's going to be harder. I'll tell you, in my 20s, I met so many men that I could have dated, and I had many boyfriends because I was surrounded by single people, whether it was in my junior high school, college, work, through friends, through parties, through groups I was involved in. And I know many men in their 70s and 80s whose wife died, and immediately they're set up with someone to date because they're in social groups. People who are in active social groups and have a social network, they're often meeting new people. So me, because I'm not in any social networks, I work from home, I'm not going to college, I'm not surrounded by single people, I'm not surrounded by groups of people at all. But it's not just being surrounded by people, it's being surrounded by people that you know, because all the boyfriends I've ever had, I met in a very traditional way, in that I was around them over time, like a guy that was in my chemistry lab or someone that I worked with. So I saw this person over time. I mean, I never dated someone that just came up to me in a restaurant and said, "Do you want to go for coffee?" Like that never happened. It was always someone that I knew, that was vetted, and that I saw over time, that became a little familiar. Vetted because he was in my chemistry class, vetted because he worked with me at the hospital, vetted because he was introduced to me through friends, vetted because he was also at a party that I was at, so we had the friendship in common, vetted because he was taking a course that I was in. So that's a natural way to meet people. And I just think that nowadays, with people so much more working from home, fewer men going to college, and again, men not going out. Like, this guy was like, "You're the problem, lady." Well, where are the men? I just went to a Versa climber class. There were no men in the class. I get my hair done. I go to get my nails done. There are not any men anywhere. And when I go out to eat, there are no single men sitting there, except a couple alcoholics at the bar usually, or whatever restaurant I'm at. So it's just harder to meet people. I think the best way to meet people then is through social circles and through friendship groups. And again, I'm kind of a person that doesn't like to have friendship groups. Like I said, all the boyfriends I had before, I met through school, through work, through friends, through parties, through groups I was in, events I attended. And I would say that all the events I have attended here in San Diego, I didn't meet anybody, because there are fewer single men after 50. Most men are going to be married by their early 30s. A guy who isn't married by his early 30s has intimacy avoidance issues. I'm just going to lay it out there. You could be an exception, but you have intimacy avoidance issues. And I shouldn't maybe say an issue. Like, you're intimacy avoider, you're not a relationship guy. So I'd say that the men that are left out there, usually the wives divorce them because they're not good relationship guys. So there's a lot of that stuff out there. But I'm not going to say that I'm the problem. Also, living in Southern California is very liberal. It's very feminized. Like, this is a state where men wore diapers over their faces for years because CNN told them so. Very compliant, feminized men. And feminine women like me, we like masculine men. Men who stand for something. Men who have a backbone. I like beards, and men who can chop wood and build a campfire and put on a suit and go to the opera if they want, or somewhere. But Southern California is not the place where my type of guy would live, and I would rather be alone than just be with anyone. So I'm okay with that, but it definitely is harder. And just from the comments I've read, I see that many of you feel the same way. I think it's harder for men to meet women after 60 because so many women are fat. And a lot of women after the late 60s, they've lost interest in men altogether. They're just like happy with their friends. Once women lose their sex drive, they don't really care about men, unless it's like a friend to go to dinner with here or there. So I'm kind of an outlier in that way. But I'm just sharing my experience, what it's like. But I will tell you this, I am so glad that I'm single and divorced. I would rather be in this situation right now than be married again and be trapped. That, no. And that's the thing, when women make their own money, they get to choose a relationship. I would say that the natural way that people usually met was through seeing someone repeatedly over time in a familiar setting. That's how people met for dating, someone you saw at school, high school, college, work, someone you work with, someone that lived in your neighborhood, or maybe you saw at the gym every day, or being introduced by someone that you trust, like your aunt introduced you or your best friend introduced you. Someone who's somehow vetted. This idea of meeting anonymous people online, people have already stepped away from the dating apps. And just going up to a stranger and saying, do you want to have coffee? I never had a boyfriend. I've never had a boyfriend that I met in that way at all. I met them all through work or school. All of them. And I think those are good ways to meet people. And to the extent that you may not be going to school right now, or you may be working from home, it's just hard to meet people. So I think that people who want a relationship need to get into some kind of co-ed social groups. But again, the older you get, the fewer single people there are going to be. By the time you hit your early 30s, the majority of relationship-oriented people are going to be off the market. Off the market. And that's just another reality, And what I found out through my female friendships that I've had, the single female friends that I've had, so many that I had to let go, they just didn't meet my criteria for friendship. So I'm very picky, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. If I ever date again, it would probably be someone that I would end up marrying. I know so many people who got into relationships and they last a year or 2 or 3 and they're back on the dating app, or they're back dating, or they're single again. So getting into a relationship is easy if you're not very picky. And some people are not picky enough. They haven't learned. They keep picking someone who is not relationship material. And a lot of these single women that I had as friends, they're not relationship material or friendship material. There's a reason that some of them were never married, never had kids. They're avoidant, and they didn't get a chance to grow. And those people make terrible friends. But that's a lot of the single people out there that I met. And I guess I didn't want to be friends with married people because I'm single, and I thought I'll be friends with single people, have something in common with them. But I don't have that much in common with them because I was married. And these single people I picked were never married, have no kids. And so their ability to deal with friendship or communication stuff is so poor that it took me a few years to figure out their deficiencies. And that's not to say they're bad people. They just never learned the skill set that I require to be friends with someone. I'm very happy alone. I'm a homebody. I'm very happy alone. I'm very content at home. I read my books. I watch YouTube videos. I make YouTube videos. I have work that I do that I enjoy very much. I work with men. So I do have positive male attention. I'm able to provide for myself, and my needs are met. From that point of view, I am sharing, what it's like after 60. All these handsome guys that are available, that's just on TV. That's not real life, at least not in Southern California. In the end, we all have to be happy by ourselves, and I think it's really good to do grounding exercises, figure out how to be happy with ourselves. That's a journey, and that took me quite a few years to get there, but I'm there now. I'm there now. So I just thought I would share this video from that point of view. And please, if you're over 60, I would love to hear your dating experiences. I'm going to call this dating after single. Well, I would only consider it someone divorced after 60. Someone who's never been married, I would not consider. As friends, even. All those women that were never married, that's one thing I decided. I will never again make friends with a woman who was never married. I don't have any female friends now at all, and I'm glad. I got rid of all of them. I'm not going to call them riffraff, but I'm glad they're out of my life, because even though they added things to my life at the time, they were weighing me down. They were baggage, energetic baggage for me. So, sorry, some people love to be around people all the time, and I would too if the people had like a better skill set. When I was married, I was just with my husband and my kids. I was just with my family. So I've been around people. I lived with people for like 30 years or more, and now I get to be alone. It's nice. Thanks for watching my video, guys.